I want people to understand that economic actions work. That is why we're seeing so much propaganda to say otherwise, to keep us believing that this economy is good. Now, who really think this economy is good?
When LaTosha Brown says economic actions work, she's not just talking about one campaign. She's talking about a history of power, memory, and collective action. As we begin a new year, I wanted to pause, not for nostalgia, but to understand how the conversations we've had brought us to this moment. The foundation of this podcast has always been authors, people doing the careful work of restoring memory and correcting the record. One of the most meaningful conversations in 2025 was with journalist and biographer A'Lelia Bundles. She's the great-great-granddaughter of Madam C.J. Walker, the first Black woman millionaire in U.S. history. She spoke with me about how Madam Walker's legacy is often simplified and why who tells the story matters. You mentioned that in the book that while many people know Madam C.J. Walker as a business icon, A'Lelia's story is often misunderstood or overlooked. What, I guess, are some of the biggest myths you wanted to correct about, or truths that you wanted to bring out about A'Lelia's story?
Sure. Yeah, I think when people have read a little bit about the Harlem Renaissance, because it's such a fascinating period of time, and people enjoy it, and they say, "Oh, I wish I had lived then because I would have met all of those famous people, those writers, and those musicians who I admire." And when A'Lelia Walker has been included in some of those really well-known histories of the Harlem Renaissance, in some ways she's been caricatured. I mean, it's easy if you haven't really done the research to just say, oh, she had parties, she spent her mother's money. One famous historian said she spent the 1920s playing bridge and she had a short attention span. So these were really put downs. But as I read her letters and talked with people who had known her, did those interviews, oral histories, I realized what an interesting person she was, what a complex person she was, not a perfect human being, but who among us? And so I really wanted to create a multidimensional view of her and to take her beyond this cliche that sometimes has surrounded her image. And I will say that the Netflix series Self-Made, which was, as they say, inspired by my nonfiction book, Octavia Spencer was great, but the character that was A'Lelia Walker in Self-Made is about 180 degrees different from the real life person.
That conversation was important because it reminded me that legacy doesn't always protect itself. If stories aren't preserved with care, they're reduced or erased. As these historical conversations continued, they began to intersect with the present, with people organizing power in real time. I spoke with LaTosha Brown, co-founder of Black Voters Matter, during the 70th anniversary of the Montgomery bus boycott.
We Ain't Buying It campaign was the economic action that we really focused on for 5 days. It started on Thursday of Thanksgiving and ended on, technically that phase of it ended on Monday, Cyber Monday, but folks wanted to keep going. Why? Because we ain't buying it. So as a result, as the organic movements happen, they continue to happen. We still ain't buying it, y'all. That ultimately what this movement is about is 3 things. One, we want to reclaim our power as consumers. Black people control $1.7 trillion annually in just consumer spending. And what we're saying is we've got to start being much more conscientious about our spending choices. We've got to support companies that support us. And if those companies can't stand and support us, right, then why are we continuing to give them our dollars? And so if nothing else, we wanted people to really understand like how important our dollars are and how important our economic actions can make a difference.
That moment was a reminder that history isn't frozen in textbooks. It shows up as choices and in what happens when communities move together. Some of the most powerful conversations this year came when public figures chose honesty over polish, using their platforms to talk about health, fear, and responsibility. One of those conversations was with actor and advocate Tia Mowry.
So when you know your family history and you get that or the news about an abnormality in your breast, it's scary and it's very overwhelming. But I will say that, the coolest thing is knowing that you have that support, right? I think sometimes people don't necessarily want to talk about cancer, is because they're scared, they're overwhelmed, or they might feel alone. One thing that I did not, I mean, in the beginning, yes, I did feel alone, But knowing that I had that support from my friends, from my family, it gave me the courage to move through it. Because what was scary was also getting a biopsy and being in that room all by yourself, you know? But what I kept on focusing on was, Tia, you got to do what you got to do. You know what I mean? This might seem scary. This may seem scary, but fear isn't gonna stop me. You know what I mean? I'm gonna move through it. And thank God, I mean, everything is okay. But I know that that is not the story for many people.
What made that moment powerful wasn't celebrity, it was vulnerability and the willingness to say, this is scary and it still matters. These conversations with authors, advocates, and public voices don't just shape this past year, they shape what comes next. And they lead directly to my animated series called Erased, the Untold American Story. If these conversations resonated with you, and you believe history doesn't just lie in the past, but shapes how we move through the present, I invite you to watch the first episode of Erased. You can find it on my YouTube channel, and if you haven't already, subscribe to The Color Between the Lines on YouTube, on my podcast, or through the newsletter, so you don't miss what's coming next. I'm Esther Dillard. Thanks for listening.